Keelan, how are you? How are you making it with this kind of weather?
Well, it has been a rough day for me, and I'm sure everybody else as well.
Yeah.
It started from quite early this morning, actually, in South. So, but let me first say good afternoon to our viewers and listeners. I
Mhm.
can do a video. Shall we start our video? We could
Yes.
start the video.
Nice.
It's
Nice.
always good.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was really, really, really bad down in South, and I know a lot of flooding has begun to take place,
Yeah.
um, as expected, and we know that our citizens are going to suffer on the road with traffic
Yes. It's already started.
today. So
Yeah.
you know what that is. That is, but
Mhm.
again, it's a little bit. I mean, especially it happens throughout Trinidad. So I don't want to say that it's confined in any way or form to the south, but you know, we're going to have the same conversation tomorrow and then for the rest of the week about flooding,
Mhm. Mhm.
as we did last year, as we
Yeah.
did the year before,
Yeah.
as we did the
Yeah.
year before, and the year before, you know what I mean? And
Yes. Yes.
it must get so frustrating for the people who live in certain flood prone areas and things like that, and even the people working in Port of Spain. I have an office in Port of Spain,
Right.
and I'm also in Chaguanas, and every single time with the slightest amount of rainfall,
Mhm.
it's just you just be prepared to get wet and your feet wet and your clothes wet and you have to walk through floods, and I mean it's city center as well,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah. It's
gets
frustrating.
frustrating.
Yes. Highly frustrating. Highly
and what
frustrating.
and what bothers me is we must have some um technocrats, or the experts, the engineers, the structural engineers or something, somebody, some group of people that must be able to know a solution to this. You have a country like Holland that's under sea level,
Yeah.
um and that doesn't happen. So, and we only start talking about it once again when the rainy season starts.
Yeah.
If I remember from school days, you know it, rainy season, I think, starts perhaps at the end of June, or am I getting
At the
that?
start of June.
Start of June, right? So we're
Yeah.
in the start of June now, right?
Yeah.
With global warming and things, sometimes things a little bit earlier, things a little bit later.
Yeah.
But the causes and the simple ones, because I'm definitely not any kind of engineer, structural engineer, but
Mm.
the cleaning of the drains,
Yeah. Yeah.
of the water courses
Hmm.
when it is dry season, because we have hot sun for so many. There have been weeks and weeks, and perhaps even over a month of no rainfall. So that's the time, and
Yeah.
you would expect the local government
Mhm.
to do its job, as also central government. But I'm talking, for example, in the south. When I was the MP for Approach West, and again, that was just an area that was very, very prone to flooding. And
Mhm. Mhm.
do your job.
Mhm.
Do your job. You need an excavator, whatever it is. I mean, like I say, I don't know. Clean the water courses. The
Mm.
water has nowhere to run.
Yeah. Prior to or during that period of time, there was a lot of talk about which corporation had simple things like diesel and could not function. So
Yeah.
we were hearing all of that, and it irks me to know that simple things like that cannot be fixed in order to have the teams ready to make sure that, like you said, all the water courses are cleared, and even to create new draining system. Even the
New
people,
training system,
yeah, the
exactly.
people. I think they should keep their eyes on developers too, because developers do create a problem. They create their own drainage system that sometimes I wouldn't say, I don't know if I should use the word confused, but it will confuse the whole system that was there before.
Because again, we go into another problem where there's never any proper planning.
Yeah.
And you need to have proper planning. You don't just put up a structure. For
Mhm.
example, you have to have proper planning permission, and it shouldn't be granted just because of somebody that you know.
Yeah.
The long-term effects of this, we see it with landslips, we see it with all kinds of different things happening. Pipes being burst and causing long-term problems. I mean,
Yeah.
it's everything just seems to be so continuously chaotic that I
Yes.
understand why people feel frustrated, and I understand why they feel demotivated, and I understand why they just feel absolutely fed up. A simple thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of hearing, well, this corporation don't have money, and the government saying,
Yeah.
you know what, we've given you money, you've wasted it. I talked about this many times because it's something very close to my heart with you and Rich before, which
Yeah.
is the Auditor General report into the financial statements of the regional corporations, which are supposed to be submitted at the end of the financial year. For years, there is backlog. So instead of me having, or any member of the public having to wonder, well, you know what, the government probably really didn't give money, or the money was given and it was wasted, we're supposed to be able to look at the report
That's right.
and see exactly where the money is gone. Now, there was a corporation in, I believe it was Panday. I think 13 million or something was given back. And whilst I totally think that's right. If money wasn't spent, it should be given back. But there are things to be done.
That's right.
There are things to be
Especially in
done,
that area.
especially in that area. And you know what upset me this evening, Darimac? The SWRHA this evening put out a post, and they said that because of flooding, Pinar Rock Road, Todd's Road, Flanagan Town, and Tabakit,
Yeah.
4 healthcare facilities have been closed because of flooding.
Imagine that.
We still are in a pandemic,
Yeah.
right? You know, you need your healthcare facilities open. You need them functioning because of flooding. Is that acceptable in 2020? And you know, the first thing is, and there's never solutions. What it is let me blame this one, let me blame that one. But there are a number of agencies or bodies that have to come together to make things work. And are you telling me that not one is functioning? So that in 2022, in the middle of a pandemic, that we are in the position where 4 health facilities have had to be closed because of flooding. That is beyond backward. That is beyond backward and unacceptable. And people must be fed up and helpless and hopeless, and nothing works. And that's why people, when they get a little bit of money, want to run away from Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
You know, to me, when and government after government, and you know, I'm not saying one is to blame or the flooding this year is to blame. We did outreach programs through. My dad has the Massey Technologies Foundation, and I also work with another charity called Organization for Economic Development. And we do outreach where you go and literally give food to people during the time of flooding, right?
Yeah.
And the reason is there are elderly people who I literally walk through just a chest of water, right? Because they were marooned there.
You're right.
And could not come out to get food supplies. And that went on for almost a week. That there were people who didn't have food supplies. And I'm walking there. And well, one of the guys from the area, so he's going in front, because you can't see if you're walking in a drain, you can't see. But you know, the young boys from there, they know the terrain.
Yes.
So we're walking. And I see this Cayman staring at me. I said, oh God, there's yet. And he looked just as vicious as some of them politicians. So I say, and he says to me, look, just ignore, don't move too fast and whatever, you know. But putting aside the joke and the fun, it continues and it continues and it continues. And the corporation blame, and the MPs blame the government, and the government blames the contractors who didn't. And to me, there is no holistic, comprehensive solution where all bodies come together and say, listen, these are the areas. This is what's happening. Is littering a problem? That used to be a bit of a problem. I mean, one time I saw a sewing machine in the river. Is littering part of the problem? And if that is it, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? There must be solutions. You can go and pass as many laws as I continuously say. You can pass law after law. They're not being enforced. So today, at what could be described as the beginning of the rainy season, we're going to go through the same thing all over again.
I tell you, because
and we'll do it again next year.
Yeah, on my way to Port of Spain, I was looking at the Freeport area and the rain was continuously falling. So I was wondering, I wonder what it's like going back, because I've been through this a number of occasions. And it pains me, it irks me when I get to Port of Spain. I see people are hustling out of the city. So it's chaotic and a kind of exodus out of the city into these flooded areas. It's just going on unabated all the time. And
all the time.
Yeah, all the time, without solutions.
Now, like I say, flooding happens, and that's in some cases there are things that cannot be done.
Yeah.
You can have different kinds, especially with what's going on with climate and the environment.
Yeah.
But I'm not even going that far. I'm not even going that far. I'm talking about a simple thing of cleaning the drains, having proper planning development, people cutting down. Illegal quarrying.
Yeah.
And everybody knows, right? So who's gonna do something about it? We know what's not supposed to be done, not because you have money or you know somebody. A paper should just be signed, not because you know that affects this country and people and its citizens in the long term in ways that cost so much more money to rectify.
Yeah. Seems as though it's a plan to be spending more money all the time to rectify.
Spend and throw money at it, but no long-term solution. And I mean, if I feel frustrated, I live in the South. We deal with traffic on a normal basis.
Yes.
So when you add that together, okay, no problem. When we have, you say, rainfall and this, and people are probably being a little bit more careful. So, they're taking the time on the roads. But then we have to decide, if that happens, how we address the traffic situation.
Yeah.
Not always is it putting a police to stop on the side of the road, because that causes more traffic.
Yeah.
Because you're stopping to watch the police. And So what is it? In foreign countries, sometimes what they do, where they have the sort of the walkovers and the bridges, I say, they have these signs, these digital signs that say like 30 miles or whatever it is per hour, or 20, so that there's no standstill. So everybody's going, although we're going slow, we're all still going, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we move in and we pull in the traffic. We know where the traffic happens.
Yeah.
There's these little things that make people's lives difficult and stressful.
Yeah.
It's these little things. That's when you say improving people's lives. You don't need to spend billions of dollars before you simply sort out the traffic situation. You know how much easier that would be, for people. You go home, you're tired, you have to see about your children, you have to see about school, you have to cook, you might have to some cleaning, and you'd sit on your back hurting, your head hurting, and traffic. To me, it's just these simple things that you don't need rocket science to do.
Yeah.
That make people's lives just so stressful. And it's every day. From the moment you leave your house, you're under pressure. So you're getting angry now because road rage.
Yes. And I've seen some of that today too, because it seems like people are going to pick up their children from school and the time is taken away and they cannot go as fast as they want. Road rage sets in. You're worried about your child. You're reaching late.
It's, to me, it's just to me, I don't know that you need a rocket science or any kind of big degrees and and masters and PhD to just simply figure out. We
Yeah.
have a transport commissioner, or what's going on? Why do they stop just before Shabana and the rest of the road clear? We know
Yes.
the problems.
I
It's
try
just
to
something that
understand.
happens.
Yeah.
Rich. Sorry, Dad. Mark, I just saw Rich there, so I didn't know if he
Yes.
wanted to
Yes. Yeah. He's
join
here.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Richard.
it's probably in traffic. I
Yeah. Because he's on his phone. Yeah.
know he's on his phone. It's on his phone.
No,
But
no traffic, no traffic. I'm listening to your daddy Mac in 10
Oh.
seconds. I'm coming on the laptop, so let man.
oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Good, good,
Okay.
good,
No
good,
Yeah.
good.
problem. No problem.
Yes.
That's Chigona's area. I mean, we have the Caparo River that is always to its maximum when it rains. We have the Caroni River that too it gets up to maximum when it rains, and you tend to wonder. I mean, if people are littering and dumping all kinds of debris like fridge and like you said a sewing machine and thing in there.
Yeah, so yeah, I experienced this sewing machine one time. But you see, we
Hmm.
have littering laws, right?
Yeah.
When last did somebody get charged for littering?
Well, they have litter wardens that I have never
What?
seen in my
Who were
life.
trained?
Yeah.
One government, and I know this for a fact because at the time when I had a law office in San Fernando, I know one government rented a building for, I think it's about, forgive me if I get it wrong, allegedly about $119,000 a month to house these little wardens, and they trained, I don't know how many hundreds of them. Where
But
are
I've never
they?
seen any.
Where
I
are they?
travel north to south, south to north every day. I've never seen a little warden.
But not even in the city.
No, I don't see them. And garbage is strewn all over the place. I mean, are these guys operating, getting salaries and stuff, and they are just invisible?
Or is there no management? It's easy for us to talk, the workers and so on. Is there no management? Is there no structure?
That's right.
What is the plan? Where are the hotspots? Where are the areas? Where's the hustle and bustle where people are applying their trade and shopping and doing this and going to different government businesses and all of that, going shop, eating, and where these are the areas we need to be. So from so and so time in the morning, we're going to be there. And I'm not saying to just go crazy and find people, but your presence also, I
Yeah.
think, acts
Yeah.
as a deterrent. Hi, Richie.
How are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm good.
Mickela?
I'm good.
Oh, you look
Ranting and
fresh
raving.
and radiant and wonderful as ever.
Yes, so we should do the show on Monday so that you'll start every time I hear those lovely things, it start my week so nice.
Yes. We can squeeze a segment in for you.
We could
Of
squeeze a
course, of
segment
course.
in.
Yes,
How you
yes.
doing?
Even if it's just for that, because it's
Just
worth
for that.
it. Well,
How are
I
you?
listen to you, and what you are doing is just for that. There are so many problems in this country. The problem we have in this problem today, as a result of all those problems, is that we don't know which problem to focus on any longer
Yes.
for 9 days. Problems today, one occupy your attention, and tomorrow you forget that one because 3 more. So today a child gone missing. Tomorrow some place got broken into and there's some kind of planting. The next day is corruption. The next day 3 persons murdered somewhere. I mean, things are just out of control in this
Out of control.
country. Yeah, it is as though you have no government, there's no leadership for the country. It is as though they placed us on a desert and how whatever hang it would swing. And that is what happening all the time. I mean, it is shameful. And you're talking about, the same thing. Let me tell you, with this rainy season, what we're going to have. There are some predetermined answers already, When the flooding start, you're going to hear a minister come out and say, it was an unusual amount of rainfall. This wasn't a
Global
normal
warming.
amount. That's right. Yes, climate change. Because everything was in place to deal with the normal level, the inches of rain. But if you look at it today, we had about 4 inches more. And as a result, we didn't have the capacity to adequately accommodate that. We were prepared for 4 inches less, not more. So what they do, they're saying, no, forget the flooding and the suffering and you see people walking through water. It was a natural disaster. Now, when they're saying that, it might have only been about 8 minutes of rainfall, you know.
Yes.
But that's what they would tell you.
Yeah.
No, so they have that worked out already. They've been around.
And what the last
time.
government did not do. And then the
Yes,
last government
yes.
said, but what the one before didn't do.
Yeah.
And nobody's
yeah.
telling me, as a
And this
citizen
is
of
after
Trinidad and
7
Tobago,
years.
what you're going to do.
That's it. And what you have done since you are in there for 7 years. What did you do? And what else you expect to do going forward? They're coming to give you the same rigmarole. All talk. They're going to put on a sad face and talk in the most eloquent, slow fashion. We are amazed.
And it hurts. Don't forget how much it hurts.
Very hurt. Yeah. This was shocking. After all the work we did in preparation to experience this. This was simply put an act of God.
An act of God. Everything is an act of God. Everything. And it just, but Richard, no, I always try to stay positive. I feel where there's a will, there's a way, and you know, and you sit down and you worry and you let things get too much of you. So I try to stay positive. And even me, sometimes I just have to kneel down and pray to God because I feel like there's, you know, so much talking and nothing. I don't even want to worry about what money people don't have. I want that the government don't have. That's what I like. I don't want to worry about what you not have, how much debt and all this. Here's what I want to know. With what you have, is it functioning? Yeah. Don't spend anything on anything else now. With what you have, with the infrastructure, whatever you have in place, is it functioning? Why is it not functioning? Is it waste? Is it corruption? Is it mismanagement? Well, how do we fix that? How do we fix that? Fix what we have before we try to get something new because we never have any more money. And you understand why people vex and they're just fed up. And I talk to people say, Mick, I don't want to hear nothing about politics. Don't talk to me about politics. And I said, but you have to talk politics because politics is everything. It dictates everything. It dictates the quality of life that we will have. Maybe you don't want to talk about politicians, and that's different. But people are really fed up. They're fed up. And I felt it today when I saw, as I was telling Daddy Mark, 4 health facilities which closed in the south. 4 because of flooding. What's that? That's madness. That's madness.
Oh, wait, hold on, Mickela. It had flooding in south.
Yeah, surprise!
Raining cats and dogs.
Oh, because we didn't have that up here. It was overcast, but we had no kind of rain.
Oh,
so
no. It rained really continuously.
It was heavy?
Went on very, it was from early this morning.
So if you flooded, if down there is flooded, you could say it's fair. It rained long enough for it to flood.
Well, sometimes it's only have to rain for 8 minutes, but still, now that it has, it really rained, and it did rain all day. But we now, I can go on Google Maps or go all these different kinds of things and watch the world and I could be a meteorologist and tell you when the rain is coming because everything is so accessible now, to be able to predict weather. So we kind of knew, right? All right. And we know until tomorrow at 2, right? Okay. So is there anything that we could do now? Do we just close the health facility and we leave it until the rain stops tomorrow at 2 p.m.?
No, because they are such experts in all areas. They know between now and 2 o'clock tomorrow. No one will get sick. No one will be... No one will need the health services that should be available before 2 o'clock tomorrow. So they can afford to close it and it will be business as usual. They know. I mean, so what they do is that they come and try to justify anything that they should have managed properly in the most simplistic way to connect with the ordinary man, but they would use language in its simplicity nonetheless that the ordinary man cannot relate to, but in between it, they're going to use the language they could connect with. You follow what I'm saying? And
yeah. So you say a statement, say, where people can understand, and then you just drop in this one thing that they think, oh, maybe that's true. Maybe they know something we don't know. Maybe because of the global, some kind of crazy highfalutin word or some kind of thing that they use, and what has happened, and we now have this weather pattern that nobody was expecting, that made a diversion. I mean, to me though, you're browbeating people, man.
I heard, for example, indeed. And politicians have to be consistent with what they say in their messaging. I listened to a news, I listened to a station today with their newscast, and in it, they were dealing with the Prime Minister and the TSCT matter. So they said that, TSCT sent home, I think, 467 or 68 people.
Yeah.
Forget what the judge ruled so far, not that part. But they sent home those amount of people, right? And then they played a clip after to show what the Prime Minister said some weeks ago, I think, in response to it. I remember the opposition said they hear that, based on the shortfall that the lost TSCT made X amount of 100 million or whatever, and that they believe they are hearing that this is going to result in retrenchment of employees, over 400 employees to be retrenched and so on. The question was to the effect what the government intends to do to prevent that, and if what they're hearing is true, and what the government intends to do to prevent it if it's true. The Prime Minister in the news clip I heard got up and said, let me ask you, what do you think he said, Mickela?
I feel ashamed.
It's no different to what we started discussing. What do you think he said?
They don't have money.
Let me tell you. He said,
he didn't say they don't have money.
No, he said, see, I am not, paraphrasing, I am not, so I'm not quoting the Prime Minister as he expressed it.
Yes, we can't do that and do that incorrectly.
Yeah. He said something to the effect that he's not particularly inclined to respond to what the member raised because, in other words, that's propaganda.
That's a new one. That's a new one.
As far as he's aware, do not exist, and there's no discussion or any kind of talk about retrenchment. And then they came back to the story. 400 and something people. And this is why people have been retrenched or sent home from the same company. Now, I'm sure today, if he had heard that news clip, he'd have felt really saddened by it.
Exactly. But even if he said that they didn't have money, that would be responding. But to say, I don't want to respond, I know not you can't out every bushfire, but there's people's jobs, you have to respond.
Yeah, but he's saying in Parliament, in other words, he's about propaganda and old talk and trying to use this Parliament as a platform to disseminate incorrect information or false information. And therefore, I don't know anything about those figures. I don't know anything about any retrenchment in Parliament. But the news yesterday and today is 400 plus employees have been fired.
In fairness to the Prime Minister, the Parliament has been used on numerous occasions, even when the Prime Minister was leader of the opposition, for propaganda and old talk and this kind of thing. But surely somebody must be giving him the information and making him aware of what is happening. Because it's not nice as a leader of a country or of a business or anything else to have egg on your face. It's never nice. Was it that he was not informed of what was happening? I'm not sure, forgive me, if it was question to the Prime Minister. In such a case, you do get the question before. It came across
as that, yes.
Well, then you get the question before, unless something has changed and I don't know, which gives you and your team and your technocrats the ability to go and research.
And they would help you answer it and prepare you, and you come to the Parliament and respond.
Of course, yes. Yeah.
So, and I'm saying that to say, these things are most turning off to the people of this country.
Yeah.
People are losing confidence when you conduct yourself like that, because now you could hold a clip from another time and align it in the future or present with something else to show whether you were speaking the truth or not when you spoke about this matter back then. And it is a sad state of affairs. And I don't know, people need to be able to address this matter seriously. For all politicians. Politicians ought to be straightforward. They ought to be straightforward. And they must say what they know to be the truth. And stand by that.
People will understand. People will understand. Yeah. I don't think there's, and I would hope to God there's no politician in Trinidad that hate people so much that they will just turn around and fire everybody. And I don't think so. So things aren't going good, and you know, whatever the reasoning, but you need to talk to the population and understand that people are not stupid, and you can't take people for fools anymore. Understand that things don't go away if you simply say it doesn't exist. You know, because it will come back. It will come back. It will come back. And again, what are the real problems? I believe, Rich, and I say this over and over and over and over, the biggest problem is waste, corruption, and mismanagement. Maybe that's something that the government's not willing to address or speak about.
Yeah, and it is quite to me disappointing. I don't think governments ought to govern in this way. I don't think they should manage themselves and in such a way to allow people to feel that what they have to say, the people have to second guess. They do not have confidence as they should in government. Some ministers, not all of them, but some of them. And to me, that's a shame. That's a shocking shame. And they may still have time to turn that around, but again, that is why all of that, when you listen to Tibigonians, why they voted as they did, because they have the view, and were of the view then as well, that they're not going to allow old talk to determine how they vote. They want reality. They want facts. They want to know how they feel about the governance and how they have moved forward. When they get opportunity in Tobago, you have to make the people's lives better. And so try somebody else to do the job for them. And that's what had to come to Trinidad as well. You get someone an opportunity to improve the country so that people's lives would ultimately be improved. You fail to do that, give somebody another chance. Yeah. It's not your job to use the office to tell people and explain to them why you couldn't get something done. That is not your job. Your job is to use the office as a tool
to get it done.
Your job is to use that office as a platform to get the job done, not to come there and explain to people why you couldn't do it. They know why they elected it. And if their job you think is to explain to the people why you couldn't get it done, then you have either given up on the job, haven't arrived in the office, or you walked in there with a tent in your back pocket and you love it so much, you pitch tent and you decide I stay in here until I fall into everlasting sleep, but you didn't really care to do anything for anybody else, or something else strangely of that type of situation. And that is quite sad. It's quite sad. And people in Trinidad need to bring themselves to a place where they could easily say, hey, we gave you 5 years, and now we have given you another 5 years, but nothing has changed from 2015 to now with our lives, with the economy, with the country. You know what I mean? Why we should think you in particular is the one who possessed the solution or the answers to our problems. If you had it, then you had enough time to apply it and solve it. But it appears as though we're just as bad right now as in 2015 or worse. And you have to wonder what was done over all those years. And to make matters worse, we are 2 budgets away from spending almost $500 billion. Where all that money went? Where all that money went? I mean, this is shocking stuff.
Because you're not seeing it, you're not feeling it. You know,
nothing.
People would not. You must be able to feel it. You know, you must be able to say, this has worked. The roads are better now. We're getting water on a more regular basis. I'm not talking about basic necessities. I'm not talking about building big hotels and things. You know, I'm talking about infrastructurally in the sense where roads, water, deal with the flooding situation, creating jobs for people. You know, I
Look
think
at what
it's
has
very, very
happened.
frustrating.
Very frustrating. If you don't mind, let's just look at the
Sure.
TSCT matter, and we're going back to when they purchased Massey cables. You remember that for 255 million?
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget the name of the company that was under Massey. What's the name of it, Daddy Mac, if you're there?
Massey Technologies.
Right. Massey Technologies. They pay them,
It was something
well,
about purchasing the bandwidth.
200, yeah, right. 255 million. At the time, they were informing us of the fact that we were in recession and we were at the worst point of it. You wanted to take 200, more than $250 million to buy cable, right? Because some people made noise, we heard that the price was further negotiated, and it was further negotiated, and they dropped it down to about 240 million or 230 something million they actually paid, right? Somewhere there we were told. I said, well, at least I still some savings, but I didn't see the need for the cable. But look at this. If I had a company to sell, right? I am selling that company for one or two reasons. It's either that I want to cut my losses so I get rid of the company before it takes more from me. Because if it is profitable, I may not want to sell it because it is generating the type of profits either close to supernormal or the normal profits may be good enough. So if it's performing good, adults would want to sell it. But people do sell it when it's performing well as well. Sell this stuff, right?
Yeah,
They may
because
think they
then they could get a better price and
yeah,
things that, yeah.
and get the money right away, and perhaps they have a better idea they want to use the money for to get into something else as they come down now.
Yeah.
But so that could have been one of the reasons. But what we were told then is that the competition that was in existence then, it might not have been so viable to have another player and that kind of thing. So the government was buying out this thing to make what TSCT had better. It was going to enhance TSCT's performance. So technically, that company had made an investment that somewhere along the line they weren't too comforted with after they did it. So one could say they needed to sell to recover some of the money, if not all of it, right? We spend taxpayers' money to help the decision makers in that company get over what they may have considered to be a bad decision. You understand? So they were able to get money and walk away feeling good that they were able to salvage or make a profit on the whole thing for what they sold it for, right? We did that with taxpayers' money. And in doing so, it seemed not to have worked out for TSCT, and now TSCT is in trouble. So one had to say,
who pays the price?
We wrecked our business. We wrecked the people's business. That could be an argument, you know, to save another person's business. Now that makes sense?
Never.
And you have to wonder, and today you're seeing the pouring out concern because now you're going to court send people back to work until the matter is heard. People say now if the employees go back on the compound, they may want to further damage the company and make it worse. Yeah, because they know they're fired already. So you send them back, hurt people into the workplace where they're going to mess them because they know they're on the way out. Instead of trying to make good, they may instead do something else that could impede the smooth functioning of the organization. All that happening now. Who is coming to bail out TSCT now to help it prevent itself from firing anybody else? Nobody's coming to help it. But we use TSCT to seemingly and arguably aid someone else who had something for sale. And we bought what we did not need to buy at that time. It was not a need. You can't talk recession.
Well, it's not the government's money.
There you go. You cannot talk recession. And while talking about recession and tightening your belt, you're going to buy something that you think we want. You don't spend that kind of money loosely on things you want when you're talking about recession and asking people to tighten their belt. So why did you do it? This country still needs an answer for that. You follow what I'm saying? The country still needs an answer for that. And this is terrible. But you're saying something, Mickela.
No, I said it's not the government's money to spend. It's not their money. It's not their private money. It's not theirs. It's taxpayers' money. So, I agree that governments have to make decisions. You can't always sit down and ask everybody if you think that's right or that's wrong. And some decisions may be right or wrong. What also bothers me, though, is this: who suffers? The workers. Why is the STT not functioning that it is in this state? Is it mismanagement? Is it waste? But is it people and the workers at the bottom of the food chain that has to pay the price? Not top management. Not the however much people get, the big guys or girls at the top, but we keep on seeing bad decisions being made economically. And I agree with you, and I have to say, you can't ask people to tighten their belt and then squander.
You can't. You just can't do that, yeah.
It's not fair to people. It's not fair to people. And we see this happening over and over and over again. I accept governments have to make decisions. They have information and knowledge that the average citizen doesn't have, and they have to do what's in the best interest. And is that where we're falling apart? Because they're not making decisions in the best interest of the country and the people. This is not where you...
They are not.
This is not something you have to go and ask every citizen and do a referendum before you make a decision, economic decision. But you have to sit down and weigh things out and say what is in the best interest of the people. That's why we're there. And why do politicians forget that? If you don't want to do that, there's so many other jobs you can get.
That is what they promised them in order to get into the office. That's what they say.
It's very painful, very, very, very painful. And I mean, to me, I feel so sad. I feel so sad because I know how people feel and they're disappointed. But I see ASP is with us. ASP is a man of time. He's on the button. Should we ask him to join us?
Yes.
Good afternoon. ASP is representing the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, so ASP must be on time.
Absolutely. How are you, sir?
Highly passionate ASP. I tell you, that is the type of energy level we like to see.
The ASP is also on record as being the first person to drive former Prime Minister Massey Panday to work on his first day in office in 1995.
Wow! The ASP looking so young.
He's not as young as he looks.
He's looking good. Daddy Mac, please introduce our ASP to our viewers and listeners.
Yes, we'll do. Our special guest today is ASP Sheridan Hill, Piaro of the TTPS. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for having me and having the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service on your program. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, welcome.
Welcome, sir. Thank you so much. I know that it's been a very, very rainy day, and I know you have a lot on your plate. Regardless, so to take the time to be here with us is an absolute pleasure. So welcome. ASP, I was listening to you and I was reading, I believe it was yesterday, and I just wanted to bring up a certain topic, and I enjoyed what you said, and I think for the viewers and the listeners, it would be good to expand on it a little bit more. And this has to do with the young Tobagonian schoolboy who allegedly made threats to shoot up his school and allegedly to kill his teachers. And I wanted to ask you, because you had commented on it, I think the media had asked you, in light of the recent shootings in America, how concerned are the TTPS?
We are concerned. We are very concerned about these reports, and we take them very seriously. So the Commissioner of Police, the Senior Superintendent Tobago Division, in charge of Tobago Division, and the Assistant Commissioner in charge of Police in charge of Tobago Division. They are taking the matter very seriously. The matter is being pursued. In fact, I can tell you that PC Destin is the officer attached to the Scarborough Police Station who is investigating the matter. And it is something that's engaging the attention of the police officers in Tobago Division, in particular the Scarborough Police Station.
Thank you for that. So I wanted to ask you something, and you had said that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has its role, which I agree with, and other stakeholders. And I think sometimes the general public doesn't understand that it is probably not just the police. Who would you say these other stakeholders are? Would you say it's parents, teachers, social workers, principals? Who are these stakeholders that we need to be playing their part as well?
Well, you've touched on them. The adage, it takes a village to raise a child, also applies to a number of other issues in society. Crime in general, and especially when we're speaking about the children, the future of the nation. So when we speak of stakeholders, we talk about the family. We talk about all the different stakeholders within the school system and within the wider society. You know, recently we had the unfortunate incident where that 2-year-old child, Kimani, unfortunately lost life. And you know, I was asked about what should someone do if they see a 2-year-old child wandering around, and you know, the reporter, you know, she admitted that the fact that she's asking that question, it says something about us in society. So to answer your question, yes, all stakeholders need to play their specific part, and we're talking about the family, we're talking about, you know, the church, the NGOs, everyone.
Because what we're seeing is an increase in violence in schools as well. And this is really worrying to me, because I know the police service struggling at this moment to deal with the rise in crime and all different kinds of levels, murder, rape, robbery, all kinds of different things that are going on. But the violence in schools for me is really, really, really worrying.
It is.
Fighting, stabbing. We've lost complete respect for teachers or those even in authority. And I was listening to the Tobago officer for tutor, Mr. Brandon Roberts, and what he was saying is the education system needs to play a greater role, as we were just saying. But what he also says, and I'd like to hear your views on this, that children have more rights to do things now than adults. Even police officers have to be careful how they deal with children. Is that how the police service feels now?
Well, we are guided. We are guided by a number. We have SOs, we have standing orders with respect to the interviewing of children, whether they are suspects or they are witnesses. Right? They're giving the children are giving evidence in matters. We're recording statements. We're getting information from children. We also have now we now have the children judges rules, right? Yeah. So we have specific codes with respect to our daily functions where children are concerned. We now have children's courts. Now, if we have a child suspect, not only do these rules pertain to the interviewing of the children, but where the children are accommodated, the names and so on of the different places. We now have specific stations designated for children suspects. So it's the situation with children has evolved. But I want to remind members of the public that notwithstanding that it's children that we're dealing with, the law applies to children, and as a fellow attorney, you know that once you've crossed a certain age, that dolai inca pax principle, it goes out the window. So we will prosecute you. We will investigate reports of crimes committed by children, and where we have the evidence, we will prosecute you. Of course, and I must put in a plug here for Miss Guy Allen's unit, where and they deal with specific offenses. We have a child protection unit, which is one of the units of the Special Victims Department. But their focus, while the focus there is on, and sometimes members of the public don't understand the distinction. So I'm happy to clarify that. They investigate offenses, specific offenses committed against children, particularly sexual crimes and instances of abuse and willful neglect and so on. But where we're dealing with matters involving children who are suspects, it's any section of the police service. So we will investigate, and where we find sufficient evidence to prosecute, we will prosecute.
ASP, the police service in Trinidad and Tobago right now have a lot on their plate. And whilst we know that it is not perfect, the police tend to also be the first people that people blame. And that is because they are to protect and serve, and because we're not supposed to take the laws sort of into our own hands, But at this moment, do you think, so we see the violence in schools. We have a huge thing happening now with people stealing cable. I must tell you a story about that happening 3:30 in the morning just by me, and you have to call people for people stealing cable. You have opposite a police station, a bank being robbed. Have the police.
Well, the bank wasn't robbed. Yeah, as a fellow Attorney police officer, we have it's one of those break-in offenses. So, robbery is separate from... Yes.
They appropriated stuff that wasn't theirs. So I tried, but just for the listening public. I mean, have they? And I know, I want to say this in the kindest and fairest of ways, but have the police lost control of crime in Trinidad?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'm happy that
and Tobago, forgive me.
And, yes, in Trinidad and Tobago, yes. I recall earlier on this year when we in the month of January, I think we had about 53 murders, and a number of persons commenting publicly about crime and the perception that crime is spiraling out of control and making these outrageous statements. And when you look at the data for the first quarter of 2022, and you look at it for the corresponding period last year, crime was down by about 25%. We look at, when we talk about serious crimes, the murders, the rapes, the robberies, the woundings, the shootings, and so on. So, and even now, the total number of serious crimes it's lower than last year for the corresponding period. So when we have to be careful when we have specific incidents, high-profile crimes, and we have a number of murders occurring within a short period of time, and we always extend our condolences to the family members and so on. But we do not want what we want people to desist from doing is whenever we have an incident, is to say that crime is spiraling out of control, and we have lost and that is far from the truth. I can tell you that we only just 2 days ago, just yesterday, in the same Tobago, we solved a double murder using cutting edge technology and scientific evidence. And for the year, it is amazing when, to consider that we have prosecuted, we have not prosecuted, but we have charged persons for more than 22 murders committed this year. And we continue to prosecute persons for murders committed in previous years.
But ASP, whilst I understand, and I understand exactly what you're saying, that doesn't marry together with the fact that Trinidad and Tobago is just ranked the 6th amongst the countries with the highest crime rate.
Yeah, but what
it can't be that everybody's imagining it,
Yeah.
We're feeling it. We may not have the statistics.
And I'm happy you mentioned that. So it is important when we get these studies and these rankings that people understand the methodology that's used to arrive at these rankings. So one of the things we have to understand is which countries provided the data, what was the formula that was used. So 2 things are important here. The issues of incident counting and victim counting, but also the issue of those possession offenses. So what the data doesn't say is where we have excellent, sterling, outstanding police work, where we go out there and we detect firearm-related offenses, that's another crime. Where we detect possession of drugs, those are also recorded as serious crimes, but it is as a result of good police work. Here's another thing I want you all to consider, members of the public. When we have an incident here, or if 14 people are killed in other countries, you have an incident where 32 persons are murdered. Let's say, for example, in a school. That's one incident. It's counted as one crime here. When you have a double murder, we say that's two murders. So we have to take all these things into consideration. So you might find a high number of serious crimes. But what it doesn't say is that a number of those serious crimes are as a result of sterling police work, where officers go there and they find drugs, and we have charged over 400 persons for firearm-related offenses for this year. Firearm-related offenses. So while the numbers go up, what it does not say is what are some of the factors, and then we must also take into consideration the methodology that's used by these bodies who come up with these rankings and these surveys.
And I agree with you, because there will always be different categories and how they actually come up with it. Yes. But it doesn't change the fact that the crime is still taking place. We're just probably putting it in sort of, different levels. Let me ask you, as a fellow attorney as well, if the police are doing the work, is it the judicial system that's failing?
Well, I won't say that, but what I will say is what we need is a fulsome understanding of all the different factors that contribute to some of the issues in the judicial system, in the justice system. So you have, for example, as an attorney, that sometimes, and I can tell you from both sides, you have matters that take years, but it's not always the prosecution that's not ready. You're aware of that sometimes, sometimes accused persons, they cannot secure legal representation. That is a factor. And you have a number of factors that contribute. Sometimes you have, just today a colleague called me after some really good police work. The victim decides that she's no longer interested in the matter. And my colleague called me and said that the DPP's office decided, oh yeah, you are not interested in the matter. We are still proceeding. You know,
because it now becomes a police matter. So she doesn't have, it's not a private prosecution. So she doesn't matter what
exactly. So there are a number of factors. There are a number of factors involved.
If she doesn't come, might cause problems. Yes. Sorry.
So people need to understand the full picture. And I'm not here to say that the police service is perfect. I'm not here to say that we don't have instances of police officers being delinquent. But we need to understand that there are a number of other factors. And the police service today is doing more than it has ever done to bring persons to justice. We have done so many things. I just want to give you a little idea. The commissioner speaks a lot about the one-stop shop at Kumuto. What he did is that the Special Evidence Recovery Unit at Kumuto, he has put in under one roof. You have ballistics, you have DNA, you have the fingerprint. You also have cameras. Now, if you are conducting an investigation where a firearm is concerned, normally it takes quite a lengthy period of time for it to leave one particular unit, get to the other unit, and so on. What the commissioner did is got a number of police officers trained as AMRAs to say that is a firearm. And then you have the link with the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms unit within the US. So if we get a hit, we can trace and see if that firearm was involved in other crimes and so on. He has placed all those skills under the same roof. So what does that do? That has reduced the time it takes to get critical evidence to prosecute persons.
And I have no doubt that he's trying. I don't think anybody takes that position without wanting to try. And I know that there are many obstacles that may be in your way. Yet the public, the general public, don't seem to have faith in the police service. And that could be a very unfair feeling. But there's a general distrust. And I feel that in turn, ASP, creates perhaps a bit of demoralization within the police service. And we have this vicious circle where there's this huge divide between the police and the people. And when that happens, it causes so many problems in terms of solving crimes, in terms of getting your witnesses, all kinds of things. And maybe that perception that people have of police is something, needs to change. At one stage in the UK, you would remember there was a hatred for police officers. They used to call them pigs. Nobody wanted to see them. Maybe something has to change because people do not. And I can't speak to everybody in Trinidad and Tobago because I haven't spoken to everybody in Trinidad and Tobago. But the general consensus is that people don't have faith in the police service. Why do you think that is?
I don't know that the general consensus is that the Trinidad and Tobago does not have faith in the police. While there are persons who hold certain views. And I'll give you an example. We recently launched an initiative called the Criminal Community Justice Project.
Yeah.
And what we've done is we've partnered with a number of attorneys to provide free legal advice to members of the public. Because what we've seen is that what we call the classification or the probable cause of crimes, and in particular here, we're speaking about murders, that domestic altercations, intimate partner relationships, and familiar relationships those have been the causes, the probable causes, the classifications of a number of murders, a large percentage of murders. In fact, those familial and domestic violence situations, together with altercations, what we're seeing now in the past few months is that those categories have surpassed the number of gang-related murders. So what have we done?
That's frightening.
Yeah. So what have we done? And so you see, that also raises a number of other questions. But what have we done? We have a conflict resolution center in St. Joseph. And just within the last 2 weeks, we had more than, whilst you say there are some persons who hold the view that there's this wide distrust for police officers in Trinidad and Tobago, we got over 140 professionals to volunteer.
And did people come? And did people turn up?
So, well, we launched initiative, but what we have clinics where we go around in the community, partnering with attorneys who are doing this work pro bono to give free legal advice on a broad range of issues: custody issues, matrimonial issues, land law issues, and as an attorney of public, yes, land law issues, and so on, nuisance issues. And what are we doing? What we're trying to do, we feel it's better to prevent a crime than to solve a crime.
Of course, because crime is multifaceted. So you have to look at prevention, you have to look at detection, you have to look at some stages rehabilitation. And that's the structure of it. I see Rich is on. You wanted to, Rich, please join us in with ASP, forgive me.
Sure.
I anointed you the post. Go on. Please, Richard.
Yes, ASP, that is acting superintendent.
No, it's assistant superintendent, but I am actually acting in the position. It's acting assistant superintendent.
Acting assistant superintendent, I tell you.
We need the post to be filled properly.
So
but anyway,
superintendent is someone just under the deputy commissioner level.
Okay, so quickly, we have 2 divisions in the police service. The second division, which is from constable to inspector, my rank is actually inspector. Yeah. I'm acting ASP. And in the first division, the senior officers, the first division officers, from the rank of assistant superintendent to commissioner of police. So quickly, it's assistant superintendent, superintendent, senior superintendent. Then we have the commissioners, the assistant commissioner, the deputy commissioner, the commissioner of police.
Okay, so it's a very high. You on the second level. You
I am honored.
The big fellas. Yeah.
I'm right
Rich,
there.
I'm honored to be chatting with us.
Now I know you're on the floor with the big guys. You know, there's this song, you want to ride with the big guys or something like that. You on top there, ASP. That's good. I'm saying that to say though, I've listened to you and the good work that the police officers have been doing for the country. I would want to say from the onset that had it not been for the work that you all have been doing for our country day and night, as bad as the situation is, it could have been a lot worse. I get that, and that is true, right? You all are doing some work. You will continue to fight and pull back crime where you could, prevent some where you could. But in spite of your heroics and hard work, the crime figures are still high. The country looks bad in terms of the ratings we are getting. Countries are telling their citizens when they come here where to go, where not to go. You're getting all these different types of advisories, you know, to protect their citizens when they come to visit Trinidad. It has impacted negatively our tourism drive in terms of competing with countries like Barbados and even Grenada. People are in Jamaica, people are signing up, and now with Guyana and all the activities there, more people are heading to those countries in Trinidad and Tobago. And one of the reasons for them looking past Trinidad and Tobago is because of the level of criminality that they're hearing about flowing out of Trinidad and Tobago. So you said the judiciary is trying its best. I know you all are working hard. There are some genuine committed police officers. You have a few who seem bent on pursuing a double career, policing and criminal at the same time. Makes good people like you look questionable, but you look good enough to shake that off, and that's good. So I want to ask you, I said all of that to say this then. What would you view as the main cause of the high level of crime still in the country, in spite of everything? Take the policing, the judiciary, where it is, and what could we do to pull that back? Where are we falling short?
Well, I have not done the research, so I don't have any empirical data to say that this, this or that factor is this factor or that factor, you understand, is the most significant. A crime is multifaceted. So there are a number of different reasons. I think in order for someone to make such a bold claim, we can always talk intuitively. I have a hunch based on, the limited things that I've seen and read and so on. But a lot of these things require, in my respectful view, scientific data to say this is the number one factor. What I can tell you is what from our statistics, and that's just the raw data that we have in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We have a department called the Crime and Problem Analysis Branch, where we gather data, we look at trends and so on. But that is with respect to the numbers, what the numbers are saying to us. And we can also go further and look at some of the trends and say, well, okay, between this time and that time, in so and so place, that we've seen this, we've seen that. And that informs, I think a lot of people are not aware that we in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we at that stage where that type of information informs the deployment of resources and our tactics and so on in responding to crime. But to answer your question, I do not have any scientific rigorous research study to say that this is the number one factor or that is the number one factor, because there's a difference between correlation and causation. If I'm walking down the road at 8 o'clock every morning and there is a robbery in the vicinity of where I'm walking, while there's a correlation between me passing there at a certain time, it doesn't mean to say me passing there at that time is what caused the robbery. So it's important to get, in my respectful view, and I think this is the view of the police service, unless we have, rigid, we can look at a number of factors, but we can't say that this is the number one factor. That requires...
All right. Yeah. Causation is a criminal principle in law. I think we all here did law. And that is one of the most fundamental factors in determining a criminal matter. So you search for causation. Correlation is different. There will be a correlation between the level of crime in the country today and what is the platform for it. And the way you would find that to get that correlation out, what you are saying you all have never done, perhaps is what is required to be done so that you'll come to know. How would you know what to do when it's this high if what should have been done was not done? Therefore, what is required and what has to be fulfilled is to do such a study of the lay of the land, where the majority is linked to drugs and there are several spin-offs, so that the core is drugs and how that correlates to the different types of crime. So that instead of running behind all the limbs of crime, we could all then concentrate on the core, which is correlated to the other limbs of crime, and attack the core and see how you bring all the other limbs quietly to a gentle end. Therefore, such a study should be commissioned. It should be paid for. Yeah. Professionals should come in and go through it and then call the senior officers to a session and explain it to them, and then they in turn could share it with the lower level ranks, and you come up with a strategy. Because when you look at New York, how they pull back, they would have done that. You look at how Canada has been running for so long with minimal criminal activities, same human beings there, you know. Same human beings there. Some from Trinidad, too many, and yet still they behave. Look at what they did to the parliament. They went to the parliament of the Canadian parliament. They clout up 2 police officers because you know what happened? The guns they had is ceremonial, you know. They're not real. Because they're so accustomed to not having the need to carry arms and ammunition. Because the place is so peaceful. So it was a rarity. It's only now they have armed them. So how other parts of the world dealing with same human beings, same economic problems, same challenges, others could be so patient and relaxed, and they're exposed to the same things we're exposed to, all the Google, internet, television, movies, all the things that could impact cultures negatively. But they're able to surmount those things and stay in line. But for some reason in Trinidad, we are affected significantly negatively. How do we fix that? So I'm saying you are right. You don't have the study. That's okay. But you know what you did here today? You were able to tell us what you should have that you don't have. So at least you are able to identify what is required to put you all in that place, to have you all in a position to more adequately respond to the changing times and how we could fight crime more effectively. So would you agree that such a study should be commissioned?
There's great utility in such a study. There's great benefit
of course
in such a study.
And therefore that can help. Yeah, sorry.
Let me say this. We oftentimes, this country is compared with a lot of other, first world, much more developed, much more advanced, much larger countries, which have a number of different things. So when you look at the various factors, they're different from us. They're more advanced. But when you compare Trinidad and Tobago with other Caribbean countries, you start to get a different picture. And if we look at other countries in the Caribbean, you realize, because one of the things that you'll find here is that a lot of people comment on issues and they make broad sweeping statements and they arrive at conclusions based on hunch, based on gut feeling, and so on. But if you look at Trinidad and Tobago with the rest of the Caribbean, you realize that at different years, and I won't name some of those countries, we always focus on one country further north, which is close to the US. But there are other countries in the region with similar and higher murder rates and crime rates than Trinidad and Tobago. I think a lot of the time is because people are not aware of the statistics. They know about what we have here in Trinidad and Tobago. They know about Trinidad and Tobago, but they know what's happening in the region. There's several studies conducted over the years where you'd find that Trinidad and Tobago, Belize, St. Kitts and Nevis, Bahamas, sometimes St. Lucia, sometimes those countries have higher murder rates than Trinidad and Tobago. And if you look at even one or two of the non-independent Caribbean countries, much higher murder rates than Trinidad and Tobago. And people are not aware of these things. And people make broad sweeping statements that Trinidad and Tobago is the this or the that of the Caribbean, when the data does not support that. And that's why earlier on this year, when a couple of reporters, but in an interview, I told a reporter that people are saying because of from 30-something last year to 50-something murders in January, that crime has skyrocketed and spiraled out of control. And I got the data from CAPA to show that for the corresponding period last year, there were over 2,200 serious crimes. And for the same period this year, we had 1,500. And one thing I hope the public gives us credit for is if the data shows that it's high, we say it's high. But when we say it's low, it's from the same source. And many times, and as I mentioned earlier on, once we understand the factors, the methodology that went into that particular, that World Population Review study, that report that showed us, that reflected that we are number 6 and they understand a number of things, I think they will have a better appreciation of what's happening here.
Also, I think what happens is those countries probably don't have as much money as we did, or as we have, and the amount of money that we see, billions going into national security over the years. Something for me as simple as computerizing police stations, I think it makes the police job very difficult. And that's what I wanted to also ask you. You know, we look at the cause. It could be that policemen are feeling and women are feeling demoralized. It could be that you're understaffed. It could be that they're underpaid. It could be that there's not enough resources. It could be mismanagement. It could be waste. It could be corruption. And I want to agree with Rich by saying we have to figure out not only what is causing the crime, as he had said, but when we find the solution, do we have what it takes and do we have what we need to then do something about it, change it, reduce the crime rate? 1998, and I always remember it because it's the same number, murders was 98. Things have progressively over the years gone worse and worse and worse. So to me, it's not something that's possible that could be done. We're still writing down reports and books.
But let me say this. I'm
just saying, you know.
I think, and I'm happy that we in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we have a media ambassador initiative where we have police officers on various, in fact, not just on TDT on a Monday morning, on TV6 on a Tuesday, Synergy on a Thursday, CNC3 on a Synergy on Wednesday, CNC3 on Thursdays, and even some other platforms. And we have police officers on radio and so on. So what we're doing, and I'm happy for opportunities like these, where we get to engage members of the public.
Sure.
We could debunk a number of things. We could present some facts. Let me say this to you. I've been in the police service for over 34 years. And we have come a long way. I recall many years ago, I worked at the Professional Standards Bureau and I was in Komuto Police Station. And we went there in our investigations. And if you go to Komuto Police Station now, you see it's a 2-story structure with a gym to the back. And when I walking through the station, and this is like, I've been out of the Professional Standards Bureau 4 years, not well, a little over 2 years now, but this is 2016. And you go to a room in that police station and you see interview room and you push the door and you see a computer there. This is 2016. Huh? So people still feel that not just the country, when we talk about the police service, that we in the Stone Age, we have Comstat. And as I mentioned earlier on, the data, the analysis, we have crime analysts in every division. We have Comstat, and we're now going into things like gang Comstat. So we let the data, we recently, the commissioner launched, we have operational command centers in each division. And what we're getting into is a close connection between the crime and problem analysis branch and the command centers. So now we could track the time that it takes to respond. The command centers now can deploy, can say which vehicle is in which area to respond quicker. And we improve our time. We now have the AFIS system in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, where now we can, as you take your print, no long time you go to the station and you roll your prints. In fact, it's still obtained, and we're phasing that out. When you go to the station and you dip, you see the officer rolling the ink on the glass, and he rolls your print, and then you go to the sink and you wash it off, and so on, and it takes a number of days. We now have the AFS system where you put your hands on the pad, and it immediately goes from the station to the fingerprint office. And there's so many things.
I'm so happy to hear this, and maybe
And
maybe people don't know. So, you're letting us know, and I really appreciate that. So, do you think the recent spyware that was bought for 1 point something billion is going to make a dent in crime?
I really can't comment on the.
Sure. And I appreciate that. No,
yeah,
we're just talking about technology.
But what I will say is, I think the public will be pleasantly surprised how we use technology to solve crimes, developments, new legislation to prosecute persons for offenses we could not before. Improvements in things such as the AFIS system, connection with the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, working closely with CARICOM impacts, closer collaboration with our stakeholders, so we can capitalize at times on limited resources and so on. So it's a much more modern day approach to responding, treating, managing crime. And
yes, ASP, because we really need to move with technology. And I was wondering, insofar as you're able to tell us, where are we at with DNA? I always tell Richard that I was there when we passed the bill. I was in Parliament in 2009. And I know this doesn't really have to do with the police to say that they have to, but they have to put in the necessary infrastructure. It's not the police service. But what I'm saying is, clearly, since the 1980s, DNA has been around, and that is the biggest scientific tool. It's a solving crime. And again, when people realize that people are being caught and crimes are being solved, that in itself acts as a deterrent. So where are we with that? And then when you answer that for me, just lastly for me and whatever Rich wants to ask as well, in terms of the technology, is this all the police stations in Trinidad and Tobago, or are we just moving along trying to?
Of course, we have stations in so I'll deal with the last question first.
Sure.
We have stations in some of the rural areas in Trinidad and Tobago that they are not on the same level with the other stations, but those are actively engaging the attention of the Commissioner of Police and the executive. So in terms of the structure, if you go to some stations as Matura and Matlot and some of these other stations, they're not the.
So what percentage of police stations would you say have it?
So you talk about technology?
Yeah, technology, basic things, computers, let's just say everyone. Okay,
computer good. Today, I'm actually talking to you, and people might.
So we should be making reports on computers now, as opposed to still writing them, right?
No. We have pros and cons with those things, but there are things that are engaging the attention of the executive, and there are a number of things that we can't just phase out just like that. But of course, the move is to improve what we do in a holistic way. So the use of technology is it's compared to what it was to where it is now, it's by leaps and bounds. But of course, we still have some way to go. And as I mentioned with respect to the stations, all the stations are not on the same level, but the commissioner and the executive is working assiduously to bring to rectify that situation.
And please, my favorite one is DNA. I just
Yes, all right. So back to the DNA. Very soon, within the next, I don't want to, within the next couple of days, you're going to hear something about a double murder that was solved, but I don't want to say much on that. But,
sure.
But
because 2009 is a long time.
We are using. A lot of fantastic things happen in the police service, and some of it you don't hear about. I think opportunities such as these will go a long way, to change that, to inform public opinion and the perception that we're not in the Stone Age. We
good. And ASP, so the thing about it is that as a female, a young female myself, you go to these huge metropolitan countries where the population is so much bigger, and you still feel like you can travel and feel safely. I think people will really start to feel differently when they feel, that when they feel safer at home. That when the dog barks, that somebody's not breaking in their house and coming, and police response times and those kinds of things, which I know doesn't change overnight. It's just that so much money has always been put into national security, and we're in 2022, nearly half of it gone. And we're looking forward to the changes. And I'll just let Rich close if he wants to say anything, because I know we've taken up so much of your time.
Just before I say that, let me ask, ASP Face reminded me of somebody when I was doing A-level law with Pamela Elder. There were some officers there many years ago. Were you one of them?
No, I had a brother who studied law at Elders, a younger brother.
Oh, okay, I see. It could be there's a resemblance here.
Yeah, his name is Burton Hill. He's in the prison service. That's my younger brother.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah. Well, I just wondered, Mickela has always been raising, what she said, which is so much money being poured into the service, for example, on an annual basis, and we're just not getting the results for it. And the DNA, she was in Parliament when that was debated and passed. Why haven't we used the DNA? First of all, I don't know if Mickela got the answer she was in search of. Is it actually law today?
It is.
Why don't we?
Do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the infrastructure?
Again, as we spoke about the justice system, you have a lot of different parts. And if, all the parts need to come together and work together so that the whole can function.
But ASP, for detection, you need the DNA. And we need to have the right people who know to preserve it, test it. We need to have, there must be something to do with the right laboratories, these things to keep it, to store it, DNA database and that kind of thing, Let
me tell you something. I as a former legal officer, I've reviewed many files where non-intimate samples were taking swabs and so on. So it's something that's been happening for a while. In terms of the full extent of the law, that I can't comment on that. I am not in a position to comment on that. But there are many aspects of the DNA Act is in effect and being utilized regularly. And I have to say that very soon, the TTPS is going to make a public statement on a particular matter. Very, very soon.
Sure. Rich, I interrupted you, forgive me.
Who? ASP?
No, I interrupted you, Rich. Please, go ahead.
Oh, no. I'm saying, well, clearly, DNA, for example, will go a long way. It's not being used to its fullest, even if it is to some extent in part. But the developed countries are using that. It's a main, what they normally say, arsenal in their weaponry against criminals, because it helped them to dial in to who they're in search of a lot more easy. And if it works for them, it could work for us. And that would really be helpful. When Jack Warner was Minister of National Security, he said that they were implementing something in the police service to detect gunshots. So he said on the platform, what they had set up is that if a shot was fired, say in Laventille, he said no need for people to get up in the night anymore, something like that, to go and see who did it. The system would tell you in reverse exactly where the shot came from, and they'll be able to go to that home or place where the shot was fired from, and they'll get the person who did it. You are here with us today as one of the senior police officers. Do you know anything about any such system?
It sounds a little bit incredible. So I can't.
Incredible in a good way or incredible in a way?
It just sounds incredible. Incredible. That's something. And you see,
Incredulous.
One of the things that we want people to keep real is that, and there are two sides of television. You see some things happen in 35 minutes because the program is an hour long, 25 minutes commercial, and you see 35 minutes, and you see all sorts of fantastic things happening. I'm always happy to tell, members of the media that virtually everything you see on TV, we're doing it here. And sometimes more, and sometimes more. But sometimes, people look at television and they get a false sense of what happens in reality. So we want people to understand that, you look at a television show and you see things happen in 35 minutes. It does not happen that way in real life. Even sometimes in that same television show, you don't see that sometimes for 2 years, for 3 years, the case went cold. But that happens in a few seconds. So it's 35 minutes. And you come here and you think that things happen in 35 minutes. A lot of different factors contribute to the situation, the criminal justice system, and the way things don't happen, the way people perceive it to happen. I'm not saying that we don't have flaws and you don't have issues, but we want people to keep it real. And it's always unfortunate when people take specific things from those larger metropolitan countries and they come and they think it's going to happen here the way it happens across there. So we have to, keep things in perspective.
I'm willing to the time, but we just sorry, Rich, go ahead.
ASP, I get that, and it's true. You would say a 35 minutes program, and depending on who's the looker of that show, may think what they saw from the beginning to the end of that 35 minutes, although it was spread out over an hour or so when they add the commercials, they may have felt from the commission of the crime to the solving of it, all that happened right there. But if they had looked a little deeper, they would have seen it happened this day, what the officers were going through for weeks, and the wrong leads they got, and the false stats they had before they were able to get a real clue that led them to it. But they had to condense it. There are other movies or programs that MSNBC would run, especially on weekends and holidays, where you actually take you through how many years sometimes they're hunting down someone and they never give up till they get that person, right? But there are other times. Let's go to things like Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma bomber. You remember him?
Yeah, of course.
He was captured the same day he did it. Let's go to the Boston bombers. Because Timothy McVeigh case, he did it and then he froze. He couldn't move because, he was waiting so long for the explosion to take off. When he triggered it and it didn't happen, he was about to come out the car to go back to see what went wrong, and then it happened. So he went and sat down in the car, so it was a bit delayed. And he was in shock, like he didn't expect it to be as bad as it turned out to be. And they felt it strange when they blocked off the whole area, one man just sitting in his car, not moving out. When they checked him out, he was the guy. But in the Boston bombers case, I think they were brothers. They were on the run. They were trying to get away. But because of good, sophisticated policing, the cameras, you all remember that? They actually showed how they did it, They went through all the people they showed you who were passing, and they got to the person who rested the thing down. You understand what he looked like, who was with him. They traced him back to where he left before he did it and where they went after, and they were able to pick that person up in a matter of hours, So you do have some situation where the police response time to solving a problem that could be a complicated one, they solve it in a matter of minutes. So the two streams are very much alive. You have one that's going to take a long set of time because of how complicated it really is. And then you would find others that are complicated on the surface, or probably genuinely complicated, but because of technology and the skills of the investigators and so on, they're able to sift through it faster and arrive at a conclusion at an earlier time. And it varies from state to state. I will think Trinidad and Tobago may not have to be as good as the second one, but we don't have to be as slow as the others. Why aren't we somewhere in between? I mean, it's only 1.34 million of us. The country has a lot of money. And I want to tell you, ASP, don't let them tell you they're short on resources. The country full with money. And in case you didn't believe it, Richard Quest said it the other day, this windfall of money. So if they're giving you a short money, I'm calling on you to demand it. They have the money, tell them release it. It's old talk. We do economics as well. We understand how it works. So I am telling you, as an expert in that field hugely, that we have a lot of money. So you all ought not to have any shortages. Make sure and get what you need to help position you all to be more responsive to the matters you all need to be more effectively responsive to. Yeah, because people's lives depend on your work, and you all do save a lot of lives. As I said earlier, it would have been far worse had it not been for decent, hard-working officers like yourself. But we could do better, and it may require more resources. Whatever it is, we need to get ourselves closer to those states and countries around the world that are able to respond faster to some criminal matters.
And closing down prisons and all kinds of things.
All that kind of thing.
You know, I've listened to you, and you know, I always say to people, good news hardly sells. Huh? I can tell you of a number of amazing stories, a number of matters that some of them I was personally involved in. I can tell you of officers. I'll give you an example. When I was at the CID not long ago, you had break-ins, and I think on Duncan Street, one of those streets there. Officers responded, caught the guys in the act. Caught the guys. The proprietor refused, and I'll tell you this, refused to give a statement. I, Sheridan Hill, went to the director of public prosecutions with that matter. And I'll just give you an example. And the DPP said, so Mr. Hill, how are you going to, because sometimes people forget, and Ms. Panday will tell you, you have crimes against the person and crimes against the state, where the victim is an individual, and that victim is not going forward. Where are you going with that? I can tell you of another matter. I recall, while I was in the CID again, a lady was robbed on Park Street, and immediately after the robbery, she saw a police vehicle. She stopped the police vehicle, gave them the description of the suspect, and the advisor go to the Besseau Street, and they went in pursuit of the suspect. They arrested a suspect with the handbag, with all the money, all the cards, everything in it. And as they're walking into the station, the lady is making the report. Now, again, they arrested the person based on the description the victim provided. As they're walking into the charge room, the ladies, they're making the report. And the lady says, that is not the man who robbed me. That is not the man who robbed me. I had a meeting with the DPP. We could not charge the man for the robbery, but we charged him for possession of the stolen items. And I can give you, I worked at the Professional Standards Bureau for almost 4 years. People come, they make report about certain things. We take statements, we do certain things, and we arrest. This is something I've said at all different levels. If you go to the Professional Standards Bureau and in a number of other departments in the police service, you make a report, and based on the information you provide to the police officers, again, it depends on the nature of the crime and swift response. Many persons are arrested within hours. You're very rare. You hear about those things. People solve within the police service. You have fingerprint experts who will hold up a fingerprint. They're that good. We have officers in the police service who are that good. And tell you, I can tell you about a story of a former police officer who he went on a crime scene. He dusted the prints and he said, that is X. And they say, no, that is not X, because X was arrested and X is in jail. When they went, he was out on bail. We have officers in the police service with that kind of talent. I can give you all sorts of amazing stories about police officers, many of which do not make the news. So,
ASP, you said something there that is a bit interesting. The woman saw the person, he fit the description, he had the
bag.
Evidence was on him. They had the bag. That's evidence.
They had the bag. But
right,
for the charge, for the charge of possession of stolen items,
so
the guy would have
walked
to
the principle of law causation. What would have caused that victim to say he was not the guy who robbed me? Because the lady. What would have caused her to say, oh, it was a lady who had the bag?
Yeah, who was robbed at the Republic Bank.
The victim was a lady. But who the officer held? A lady too?
No. It was a man, a male suspect.
Right.
But so the guy fit the description.
What would have caused the woman who is the victim to say he did not rob me?
Well, we'll have to ask.
That's the same causation. What caused that? I would want to tell you why I think would cause that. Because she may have lacked a substantial amount of confidence that she might have been able to live peacefully after identifying that person without that person and his colleagues coming to look for her after to say, you sell me out, to finish her off. And she decided, you see that, I prefer to keep my life than to dig a deeper hole for me.
We prosecuted
the thing about it is, the thing about it is, one of the things that would have led her, I would want to believe, to feel that way and to look at somebody whom she knows the person that robbed her and then freed him in that regard. You still charge him for possession. That was good. But freed him. The bigger takeaway there is what contributed to her mental situation to adopt such a position. Part of it must have been, to some extent, how the police protection service did not work for other victims or witnesses. How the protection program failed. Because if it was a success, she should have been able to say, easy person, knowing that I'm in the police station, and by identifying them, if you all had to put me under some form of protection, I have confidence in the protection. And people have heard stories about people come out of protection today. They went to buy something to eat. The officer just look around to close the police door. Next thing they see the man dead across there, his whole body perforated, riddled with bullets. And nobody knows who did it. So when you have that going on, that impacts people's confidence. And you're right again. People are not supporting the police and police officers as they should, because what they believe might be something far worse than what they're going through if they should do the right thing to support the police. Why is that, ASP?
Well, I can't say. You'd have to ask those persons. But we have, we have daily, we are prosecuting persons. Persons are coming forward, maybe not as much as we would like in some instances. And that also impacts on our ability to respond to crime, because you have a number of crimes committed where persons are not coming forward, and where the evidence of eyewitnesses is critical, and so on. So we need members of the public to play their part. We need members of the public. Only recently, I told a reporter, we have 1.3 or 4 million people in Trinidad and Tobago. The police service is somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 police officers if you include the Special Reserve Police Service. But at any given time, it's just a small percentage of officers out on duty. We are not everywhere. We don't have we don't have CCTV cameras on every pole, on every light pole, right? So when crimes are committed, we rely to a large extent on members of the public. And I don't want to go back to, but I'm forced to go back to the situation with the very unfortunate situation with Kimani. And I remember some of the persons who were interviewed on television. Could you imagine an adult seeing a 2-year-old child straying, and you have to ask a police officer, what should you do? So it says something about, the society. We all have a role to play in the response to crime. The police has its role to play, but members of the public also have a very important role to play in dealing with crime. All the various stakeholders, and a simple thing as reporting a crime. And we have a whole range of methods now. We have a police app, we have the 999, the 555, the 800.
ASP,
But it's not,
there are people who came on this show before and said they went to report a matter, and then they started being treated as though they were the perpetrators or the criminal or the offenders, and they dropped the whole matter. There's another category which is worse than that. Today criminals in this country walk this country as invisible men. Let me tell you, I saw footage of a person on Charlotte Street, and you know how busy that is? With a gun shooting at somebody. Sometime last year, I think it was, if it was in the year before. And what you saw is that he was walking with the gun, right? In the open. And people blocking their face and not looking at him, and nobody wanted to make eye contact. You know why nobody wanted to make eye contact? They wanted to say to that offender, I did not see you. So so don't follow me. I didn't see it. That's the message you're sending to the criminals now. So fellas now not coming again with their face ban up, because they know from the time the fire shot, everybody looking the other way. They're looking the other way. So therefore, it's a clear, open path now. Now, what could cause a society to come like that? Because some major factor has fallen apart. And that part that has fallen apart has impacted citizens' minds significantly negatively. And now we're in a sad state of affairs. And that's why murders continue to ramp up.
And that's why, and ASP, what they were also saying, correct. And that's what we were saying. That's what we were saying earlier. The disconnect between the population and the police, the distrust between the population and the police. I know a number of people, and this is not an attack, but I could just give an example, as you were giving examples earlier, where there are people selling drugs right next door. And the neighbor just doesn't want to say anything. The police come, chat with them, leave. When they did call, they then stone down their house and all kinds of things. So people prefer now to not watch, to just say, I see nothing. Don't call me. Don't ask me. I don't want to be a witness to anything. And I wanted to tell you also, ASP, in all those countries with all this great technology and DNA, they always say that the human resource, the people who are there, is just irreplaceable. They are so important in helping to solve crimes. That's why the first thing that the police do is that they go and knock on people's doors. Right around. Did you see anything? Did you hear anything? But there is a disconnect that has to be bridged between people and their trust and faith in the police, which over the years have just been worn down. And ASP, you must know that exists.
No, I'm not here to tell anyone that we're living in utopia. That the police service is perfect. And we don't have officers who do that kind of thing. However, what I want the public to know is that we are not daunted by the fact that some persons, and I want to stress that some persons will refuse to assist the police. And I can tell you of many stories of members of the public, apart from the example I gave you earlier on of members of the public calling in, members of the public giving statements, members of the public providing information, members of the public attending. I recently attended a town meeting in the Woodbrook area, and they had almost 100 persons there. We have town meetings. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service consistently engages the public. Recently,
Okay.
I heard in a program where someone said that they don't know who the superintendent or the senior superintendent is. And that was unfortunate because every week, just today, I chaired our weekly media briefings. We have weekly media briefings.
Yeah.
Almost every week, the senior superintendent in charge of the divisions. So Trinidad and Tobago is divided into 9 now 10 policing divisions. We have the senior superintendent, and invariably, the senior superintendent is accompanied by the superintendent. So that happens almost every week. We have town meetings. I recall about 2 weeks ago, there were 2 town meetings in Central Division the same night. 2 town meetings. So in separate parts of Central Division, we had the hierarchy of not just of the division, because in those meetings and those divisions are attended by the senior superintendent in charge of the division, the first division officers, but also the assistant commissioner responsible for that division. And at times we have members of the upper executive, the deputy commissioners of police and the commissioner of police attending those meetings, listening to the concerns, taking
the concerns. Okay. I was wondering what was the purpose of them. Okay. I was just wondering what was the purpose of it. So it's to engage. And how do people know when this is happening? Is it advertised so that we can come?
They are advertised. We put out, just the same way we put out, we put out notices regarding our press briefing. Right. The officers in the division, they go out, they drop their notifications, they meet the people, they inform them. We have various media. We have a Facebook page. We have an
I know it.
Twitter
I follow it.
Yeah. So we engage, and this is in addition to the morning segments, in addition to the weekly media briefings, and the other impromptu press briefings that we have. So we are constantly engaging. We are out there daily advising the members of the public on the authority of the police, on the laws of the country. We are providing safety tips. We are advising people about when you go out camping. We are advising people about safety in your home, safety in your car, safety with respect to your children. And this has been going on for years. Driving.
Well, we might need to try something else, ASAP, because we need to get that public confidence back again, probably in the way that we treat with police officers, treat with people, the way they speak with them, or to feel that sense of security of, you know what, they're here to help me, not to harm me. It wouldn't end up being me getting locked up because I'm making a report. Just maybe how we treat with the people is something that we need to look at. But I mean, again, and I know I say this for Richard as well, this is not wiping the whole police service with one brush. I'm just saying from my own experiences and what people say to me, and I guess Rich is saying the same thing, and we have different people that we meet with and talk with, and it's good to engage, because only then we could find solutions on how to move forward.
Exactly. I want to say this. In 2012, the United Nations did a study. It's entitled the Human Development Report on 7 Caribbean countries. Trinidad and Tobago was one. They refer to them as the Caribbean 7. Perception is something else, and that's why these platforms are very important to inform, to educate, enlighten, sensitize.
I walk around the area and talk to people normal, how you doing, so and so.
We do that. We have a vibrant community-oriented policing section.
That's important.
Information is really something else. But going back to the study, this study found one of the findings of that study was, they asked persons in those countries, what is their perception of the police ability to manage, to deal with the crime problem? And among the Caribbean 7, mind you, that study was written by 4 professors, none of whom is from Trinidad and Tobago. And you know they found that based on the responses by the persons in this country and what the data showed on crime in this country as opposed to the other countries, they said on that particular question, I never forget that, on that particular question, perception is not in step with reality. So there are a lot of things in this country that people perceive. You know how many people? I remember somebody telling me once that Jamaica is 7 million people. I say no. People know what happens here. They know what's happening, and they know some of what is happening here. So what we are doing is we are meeting the people. We engage people on different levels to show people that here we are not daunted by what's happening in society. We are there, unrelenting. We are responding to the issues, and every time we have a new initiative, we engage the public. We constantly communicating with the public on what we're doing. We establish a national operational task force. We engage the public. We bring in all the stakeholders. We let the public know what's happening. You want to get crime statistics? We have a crime and problem analysis branch where we'll give you the data. We present the data. We don't hide anything. And if you need the data to be more granular, more disaggregated, we provide you with that data.
But that's good information to have. ASP, I think that your heart is in the right place, and all I could do is wish you the best of luck. Rich, anything you'd like to add for ASP before?
No, I think ASP has represented himself, quite effectively. He has been able to identify some of the good that they're doing. It sounds like a lot that the media, as he said, good news is not a selling point to media houses. So that will not be magnified. And perhaps if the media houses could hold on to some of the good news and magnify it some more, 2 things may happen. People may become more confident in the work that the police is doing and therefore support them more. And then it could also embolden other people and other officers to even do more when they realize that it is being recognized and acknowledged, and they are being given all the commendation and so on for it, and that it's appreciated in the country. It's not just about the salary for some officers. They're out there because they love the job and they want to improve the country, and when they do good, they would want to hear that.
I agree with that fully.
It was recognized. So I think media houses have come a bit short on not trying to interview more people like ASP Sheridan Hill to get a better picture of what policing is really about. Today, I think he was able to share a lot of that with us, and I want to thank him and commend him for it. He has also been able to highlight some of the concerns and shortages that they could have, such as a study should be done on what is the real core problem as it relates to crime in this country, which could assist them immensely to know exactly where to apply and channel their resources, in a more focused way, so that they could solve the problem. Instead of like a fireman, you have an arsonist going around and lighting fire all about, and the police, not like firemen, just running to out them. You ain't solving the problem there because you are not catching the arsonist, you're just outing the fires. The study could help move them up to a place where they could address the real core and therefore out the limbs of fires around. So I want to thank him for giving us a much better insight about the work the police officers are doing and what they are about, and where they're not where they're supposed to be now, but certainly where they are aiming to get to. So thank you so much, ASP Sheridan Hill, for coming on today, and I think you're quite candid with your views and everything. Thank you so much.
And thank you all. The police service is grateful for the opportunity to engage with you all and share what we are doing and how we can work closer going forward.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
You're welcome.
Okay. Right, Rich, ASP gave us a lot of time. We are very grateful to him for that, sir.
Oh, yes, indeed. I hope someday they consider him to be commissioner of police.
Of course.
We shall fight for that.
Yes, yes. When you have people so eloquent and have all the knowledge and experience, you know,
And a kind face.
you can't keep them there and have them act and promote them.
Correct.
And I
Correct.
think
I will bring in ASP for that to the next time. Thank you, ASP.
Yes, yes.
You're welcome, and give your father my regards. Actually, my daughter's name is Mickela after you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. And I most definitely will tell him. Thank you, ASP.
You're welcome. Bye.
Oh, bye-bye.
Okay.
Right, Rich, it's been a good run.
Yeah, you did very well again, Mickela. I mean,
You.
joy listening to you lead these interviews, you know. Great job again, you know. You don't even miss the fact that you go for a time that you promised to stay with us. So
No, because it's so important as well, Rich. When I keep thinking about it, I said, you know, the public are important, and we need to know, and we need to see both sides of things. And you know, I think we make a very good tag team. If I
think so. Yes, I think so. Indeed.
But my friend Fareed might get jealous because he listen, Navad, he might get a little jealous. But I enjoy it thoroughly, and I feel that if there's a little that we can do,
I think you do more than a little, a lot more than a little. I think what you're doing is quite meaningful and impactful on the lives of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Rich. And Daddy Max, thank you. Did you enjoy it?
Of course. It was really extensive and informative.
Thank you. And I really look forward to seeing everyone next week. And thank you to our viewers and listeners.
Yeah.
Rich, it seems like at the beginning of the week, it takes very long. And then quickly, I said, I'm going to see my friend soon. and I was telling
I feel.
I so look forward to it. So I was telling the producer, I was saying to her, I said, you know, I've got to leave. Shagona's coming down because I'm having trouble with the internet. She says, you know, the producer says, well, if you want to cancel it, Rich will do it on his own. Mr. Noray do it on his own. I think I said, no, we have to at least try. And, you know, with God's blessing, it worked.
Yes.
So thank you.
And look at that.
Yes.
And then how our viewers would have felt not being able to see this remarkable, beautiful face. Come on. So, you want to let down all viewers there?
You like to leave me speechless before I leave. I don't like that. I'm a woman. I like the last say.
Okay, all right. Take the last say, Mickela.
I just wanted
you have
to
the
say,
last word.
I don't know. I wanted to say, Rich, I really am. I really enjoy Daddy Mac and Ruben. I really enjoy the programs, and I never thought that, you know, it benefits so many people so much. The amount of people that listen and call, and Richard has a big following. I'll tell you a text. Just before I go. Richard Noray is so good. GOOOOD. Next message about Richard. So
well, I appreciate your presence because of the new normal, and we have a new face to deal with the new normal. New ideas, new everything.
Thank you so much. And I look forward
what
to
is good about Mickela also is, as a political leader,
yes,
even to me, we are getting a deeper read on her, which is what people are telling me. You know, they say, you know, they didn't know she knew so much. You know, they thought, you know, it was the young lady who, you know, bright attorney, her father was prime minister, and, you know, she felt she had the right to become prime minister too. But now they realize she has the skills
work for
and the
everything.
knowledge. Yeah, no, they're getting a completely different, they're now getting to connect with who Mickela is.
Yes.
You know, one told me the other day, why you don't bring on for 2 days?
Yeah.
You know, I said, it's not for me, you know, but I will raise it to management, and I want them to know if they're listening now. You see, I raise it.
Yes.
So,
a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
For me, it's so enjoyable. So enjoyable.
Yeah.
Love you guys so much.
You are making a lot of friends, Mickela, and I must say, especially along the East-West corridor.
Oh,
it's very, very good. Yeah.
We might get Mr. Duke coming on again if he hear you say that.
He locked into laugh until
Exactly. Thank you,
I think he
Rich.
living in laugh until right now. Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mickela. And we look forward to
Yes.
next
Until
Thursday.
Thank you.
until next
Thank
week
you.
Tuesday.
Yes.
Bye,
All right.
Ruben.
Take it
Bye,
easy.
everybody. Bye.
Bye bye.
Right.
Be safe. So that's it, people. We've been chatting with our co-host. Not chatting with our co-host. We've been chatting with Mr. Sheridan Hill, ASP and Piaro of the TTPS, co-hosted with